The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
What I said is once he's convicted in the court of law, I believe our president is a legal alien. I believe that with all my heart, and I believe Terry Lakin got put in prison inappropriately and spent 6 months in Fort Leavenworth prison.
And good morning, everyone. It's 2 minutes after the hour, 6:02, 630 KHOW, June the 5th, 2012. I'm Peter Boyles. Good morning, KL Weather Center weather. 87 to high, 57 tonight. It's 86 tomorrow. That's a video that was sent to us by Terry Laken. And you can hear them, actually, this guy, fellow Rudy Davis, talking about Colonel Laken in the background. Before I bring him on, if you were reading Sunday's Denver Post, Curtis Hubbard, who was not returning phone calls to appear here on the show, who was the Denver Post editorial page editor. The Denver Post has been on an editorial rage about anybody who questions to connect the dots in the life of Barack Obama. So Curtis Hubbard puts out a column where it's, again, Donald Trump and the rest of it. There's nothing, as I said, it's verbal diarrhea, but having said all of that, and it's a slam at Mike Kaufman and the rest, but he lists the top 5 Colorado birthers. I'm number 1, and clearly this man deserves a lot more than I'll ever. I could never be number 1 when he is with us. Terry Laken, he's, of course, an Army doctor and a colonel, grew up in Greeley. Did 5 months in Leavenworth after refusing to deploy until he could see the bona fides of the president. He joins us this morning. Doctor, good morning, and thank you for coming back on the show.
Well, good morning, Peter, and thank you for having me, and congratulations on being number 1 there.
That's right. We're number 1. When I saw it, I thought, no, you deserve to be number 1 because you risk everything, and I deserve to be way down on this list, if on the list at all, but certainly John Samson has risked quite a bit. Hollister risked quite a bit. Phil Wolf risked quite a bit. You risked everything, and I risked nothing. So I should not be number 1. Any of the above should be number 1, certainly, and I believe it should be you. How much time in total did you do, again, for the folks in the audience?
I was sentenced to 6 months, and it ended up being pretty close to 5 months with time off for good behavior and whatever else allowances I earned for working, doing my labor in the prison.
What happened? For the folks that don't know the story of Terry Laken, what happened?
During the primary elections, I thought there was a big question that wasn't being answered. After the election, I continued to research it and knew that there was problems that weren't being addressed. I felt strongly enough that I tried to address them through my military channels, through my commanders, and I tried to go through my congressional representatives, and for a year and a half, almost 2 years, and the answers that I got, trying to do this through the system, made me more angry and disillusioned that I was not in an organization that I could believe in anymore. And, everywhere I went was, we know there's a problem, but we don't know what to do, or we don't have to answer that. Even though I'm your commander, I don't have to answer that question. Or congressional members saying we knew there was a problem, but we couldn't get the media to buy into it, so we didn't know what to do. And I became disillusioned enough that I'm like, well, I'm not risking my life, and I don't believe officers and commanders should be asking other people to risk their lives for this kind of an organization, or an organization that may not have a commander-in-chief that is qualified or eligible for the Constitution to hold that office.
Let me ask you. I'm sorry, Doctor. Go ahead.
No, I just, I was in a situation where I had signed on a 4-year contract with the Army. I knew that I was about 2 years into it, and for me to ask to be released from that would have been, a non-starter with the Army, and I believed I took the right course in trying to ask this question. And I don't know the answer. I just, I don't like the term birther, but, I'm a constitutionalist. Constitutionalist would be a better term, and yeah, so that's where we're at.
Yeah, so be it. I mean, that's been my response. If that's what makes Mr. Hubbard happy or anybody else happy, you want to call it that, fine. I rose by any other name. So people ask me that all the time, and I'm just not troubled. And it's become a pejorative. And as someone pointed out, the original birther is the president himself. He's the original birther. So, because he's told so many different stories that people can't keep them straight. When you refused deployment, and for the people that don't know, you had gone before, you have impeccable credentials. How did, now that this is said and done, I don't know how much you can talk about or not talk about, I know there's a book coming. How did your superiors treat you when, say, the cameras weren't on, or when you were just one-on-one with a senior officer or even a senior enlisted man or enlisted woman? How did they treat you?
By far, the people that knew me, respectfully, very, very respectfully and professionally. They were towing the line, though. They, I guess, had to go with what the JAG officers told them, or, it's hard to interpret this. What a weird situation.
Did anyone, as an aside, say, Colonel, you're right, but there's nothing I can do about it?
Oh, yes, several people. But didn't have enough, courage, or, had their own issues that didn't feel like coming forward, or knew that it was a losing situation. But I felt that I had to speak out or do something, and one of those methods was to try and use the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which would have allowed me a grand jury type investigating officer, and my hope was that would be able to cast a net out and seek information. That the investigating officer for that Article 32 hearing declined everything that I asked for, and essentially my fate was sealed at that time, well before the court-martial.
What's fascinating to me about this is all the president had to do. You're a very gallant, very brave, and very needed man. All you would have literally had to do was walk across the street. And eventually, after you go and do your time in prison, isn't it amazing they suddenly produced this PDF file that he could have produced, which I'm telling you, this is what makes the riddle, the mystery, so much more intriguing. Here you are with your credentials and your background and your bravery and your ability to do this job that was so needed. Literally, I think you were out of prison for like a cup of coffee. And then suddenly, pardon me?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks before my official release.
Okay, it was right. I take it back. I'm looking at my own timeline wrong. You were 2 weeks. You're 2 weeks away from getting out. Your whole life had been destroyed, and suddenly, unannounced at a bizarre press conference, this PDF file drops, and then, really, literally, 2 heartbeats after that, Osama bin Laden is killed. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm crazy. But I know my mother and father raised a lot of ugly children, but they didn't raise a lot. They didn't raise a lot of stupid ones. If he was going to drop that PDF birth certificate, why in God's name did he not do that before your life was destroyed? If this is this caring man that we're led to believe that he is.
Well, he had letters to his office that his office forwarded on to military affairs, before my court-martial. So, his office knew about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I hate being in the public. I don't want this, but, part of what I had to do to protect myself when I did this was to go public and go very public fast. And, with the days of YouTube, I thought that was the best decision I could have made.
I know. But I've really tried to rethink this, and particularly in terms of your life. And people who saw this happening to you, who really understood you, who all they would have to say is, Mr. President, for God's sake, do the right thing. You know, help this man by simply showing this document. He doesn't do it. He allows all the turmoil in your family, everything that happens to you. And then, as I said, and I thought you had just gotten out, but right before you got out of the penitentiary, unannounced in a bizarre press conference, he shows a PDF file that by its own existence has enormous problems, but regardless. And then simply heartbeats after that, the SEAL team kills Osama. Terry, there's no GD way in this world that I believe that, especially, and I don't know about the murder of Osama, but there was always the critique that came down that said they knew he was there, and they wouldn't pull the trigger. They wouldn't hit the raid button. They knew where he was. The doctor had pointed him out. They knew he was in that building. They knew he was living there, but they waited. Why did they wait, asks a number of people. Did they wait for the birth certificate to drop? And then when everyone says, oh, wow, here it is, and then the raid goes down, he's killed, end of story, you come out of prison. I just think it's so crazy. Yeah.
And about that time was Jerome Corsi's book,
That's right.
Where's the Birth Certificate?
And Trump was living in his ear.
Trump was, yes.
Yeah, and now Trump's back. I don't know. I mean, I get, we've met, and I have so much respect for you. You stood the line. Who is this fellow, this Rudy Davis fellow? By the way, I'm going to set this question up and take a break because people can go to the website and see it. What is this raid that we can see here on our website?
What is the raid?
Yeah, do you know much about? I understand we got this from you, is what Sheik said about the.
Right. It was. Rudy is, become a telephone friend. Maybe he learned about my case early on and created these YouTube videos of him handing out flyers down in Texas, trying to tell people about what was going on. And we spoke on the phone a few times, and then he came to my court martial and, shook hands. Kind of a difficult situation for me, but we met that once, and he's always been an activist. I think he's a constitutionalist and a good Christian, and just is trying to get the message out that there's a problem, there's questions, and I think I haven't looked at his original video, but he went online with one of his videos and said that he believes there should be an investigation, and if there was a trial and he's convicted, then he should pay the punishment for that crime, and that got him that visit by the Secret Service.
We're going to do this. I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to take a pause. I think if you have Mr. Davis's phone number, give it to Sheik, and we'll invite Mr. Davis on. You're listening to Terry Laken. The Rebirth of the Birthers, Kurt Hubbard's column that appeared Sunday in the Denver Post, naming the top 5, and I'm number 1, which I should not be, because these other men risk a hell of a lot more than I did doing a radio show. Terry Laken should be number 1, and there should not be a number 2 or number 3 after Terry. He's the physician who went to prison. Also, we'll be talking to John Samson. As you know, Barack Obama's SSN is SSN 042-684425. It's a Connecticut SSN. It was issued to a man by Jean-Paul Ludwig, who was born in France, who came to the U.S. and who, of course, died in Hawaii. He never used his benefits. He lived his entire adult life in Connecticut. Because of that, his SSN begins with 042. Barack Obama never lived or worked in that state. He has no reason on earth to have an SSN to start with 042, none whatsoever. That's one of the things that John Samson talked about. And, of course, he received the wrath of Jason Saltzman, who then was picked up and printed by Curtis Hubbard. But let that drop in for you. We'll break and come back. But let that drop in, how all of those things conveniently happen. If this humanitarian, President of the United States, who shows his who shows his birth certificate, but lets this man go to jail, all we had to do was show it. Traffic time. Here's Susan. All right, 22 after 6:22. It looks as though we will have this fellow on the radio show, hopefully tomorrow, that the Secret Service comes and knocks on his door because he is a Obama eligibility activist by the name of Rudy Davis. He's a friend of Dr. Laken's. He's on hold coming up. John Samson, Phil Wolf, everyone that got named except the guy who named everybody. Curtis Hubbard refuses, I guess, to come on the radio show. Well, as I said, he should be number one, and there should be no number twos, threes, or fours, or fives, or sixes. This is Dr. Physician Terry Lakin. He's the Army physician from Greeley and did 5 months and days in Leavenworth for refusing deployment orders until Barack Obama was able to prove himself the transcripts of his life, which never really came. But what's fascinating, and again, Terry's book is coming out, but what's fascinating is just prior to the killing of bin Laden, and at this very bizarre press conference that we have talked about after this night flight, the attorney brings this PDF file, and from there on out. So now the book, Officer's Oath. Terry, when's the book coming out?
It is, finally at the presses, and we're expecting 3 to 4 weeks.
Oh, great! I mean, we'll be obviously on this and have you back on when it's on. Let me. I had a great Jack Cashel offered to help me out with this book, and Bill Ayers, I think, was busy, so he couldn't help me write it. He was busy writing his own.
Write it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, Jack's a good friend of ours, a good friend of the show's. But you know what? Is this a birther story?
This, I've never written a book before, but this is just my story. I think I'm an average guy. I feel very insecure about the book, but I like the back section is vignettes and essays by some very smart people involved in this issue, and stories about like you, Peter, just a brilliant man. You're getting the word out, and I listen to your show all the time. I learn a lot, and I agree with most of what you say, but the other issues I investigate them myself. And,
sure, well, it's what we all do. How has your life changed since you stood up? I've been blessed. My life is good. I have a wonderful wife and family, and close family. I love seeing patients. I love helping people, and that's what I strive for every day. I didn't give up everything. I didn't put my life on the line like our wonderful troops out there. I lost an incredible amount of money. I lost. I am now a former lieutenant colonel, and lost my promotion to bird colonel, and lost all my benefits with the military, including potential retirement. But it's all things. I have my family, and I have my faith, and I hope that we still have our country. Are you still allowed to practice medicine? I am. Yes. Okay, good. I was denied a license in Kansas, and that's under appeal. But I think I was viciously attacked by the Kansas Medical Board for we covered everything except for my practice of medicine. Yeah, I know. We wanted to talk about the birth certificate issue. Well, I know. I would have loved to have been there. I mean, I just thought they were just a bunch of lightweights. But having said all of that, conceivable question. Suppose you're right. Suppose all of these stories turn out to be accurate. I wonder what the DOD would do, or the whomever would do, the Department of Justice or whomever would do to you. If it turns out that this man has to resign because of ineligibility for whatever reasons, or is embarrassed out of office, I wonder how you would then be treated. Well,
I don't, I'm doing okay. I don't care about me in that regards. We need to correct our country. And
I know, but I care about it. I mean, and others would care about what happened to you.
Our our leaders need to stand up, and our our congressional people need to take care of this, or our military admirals and generals need to take care of this. And it's it's a weird situation. If some Congress members say that if he's ineligible or not qualified, that they cannot impeach him, well, maybe the military can remove him, and it's not a military coup.
No, but it wouldn't happen that way. I mean, I think, the military, I think, would remain extremely neutral, but I think at the same time, one of two things would happen. Either the Congress itself would say, no, wait a minute, or like Nixon, he would resign. Either way. But we'll see. Like I said, I always thought that all the man had to do was to make it right for you, was to simply send over. I mean, he had this PDF. We think, I don't know, but he could have walked that PDF over, said, okay, and you'd have seen it or whatever would have happened. But he doesn't choose to do that. We know he knew about you. We knew about you standing and holding the line. And then why, literally days before you're released, I thought it was right after you were released, I apologize, days before you were released, he suddenly shows this PDF. He could have saved you and your family, but he didn't choose to do that. But like we said, Trump's on him, Corsi's book's coming, and then the killing of bin Laden. And the Denver Post and mainstream media outlets lap up this PDF like it's mother's milk, and now the stories begin again. I'm fascinated by it. Well, so when the book's out, we'll get it. We'll have you back, and you and Jack together, and we'll go through all of it. But I really wanted to have you on the show, knowing that you were named number 2, and you should have been number 1 by light years.
No, congratulations to you on number 1 there.
Being number 1. Doctor, thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.